Oger. She was a 2017 election candidate for the BC NDP, and she serves currently as the chair of the Trans Alliance Society. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hi. So it took a while for Bill C-16 to finally get passed in the Senate. Tell me, what was your reaction when it finally went through?
Well, elation and relief. You know, the Liberal government had committed to making sure it got through, but as the calendar was dwindling and we were running out of runway, all of the trans advocates were really worried that somehow opponents would find a way to stall it and kill it by stalling it, like happened with 279.
Yeah. Okay. So what does it change for you personally?
Oh, well, you know, I'm kind of a standard, regular, middle-class person. It doesn't change a lot for me. It recognizes my equal protection in Canada, which is really good. One thing that it does that's very, very good is it adds, it updates the criminal code to give the same protection for gender identity and gender expression that we have for sex and place of origin and so forth, which means that includes tracking of crimes against transgender people based on hate crimes and so forth. I think that's the most important part.
Do we have any kind of picture right now of hate crimes against trans people? Is there any sense, I mean, other than anecdotes?
Well, we have the evidence of disproportionate death rates and disproportionate number of discriminations and hate-based actions in the anecdotal world. But what we'll have now is we'll have hard data. We'll be able to actually demand that the police track this and ask about it. And that's a huge improvement.
I imagine, too, it would allow some protections in the workforce, in society. It would allow people to be able to sue, right? I mean, does it open up all those kinds of potential?
Yes and no. It makes it much easier. These protections were already in place, but not explicitly enumerated in the Human Rights Act. Also, it's important to remember the Human Rights Act is only the federal context, so things like transport and banking and the military. In the provinces, equivalents to this bill were passed across the country already. So it was this was like the last brick that had to be put in. But the criminal code affects all Canadians, and so that was the most important.
Is it as you said? I mean, it's concrete. There's real things that will happen from it. But what does it also mean in terms of recognition of trans people who have worked so hard for so long to just have that included, even though it's inside the criminal code? What does that mean for you in terms of recognition?
You know, in recognition, it means that my protection as a transgender person and the right of people to not be discriminated against on the basis of gender expression or gender identity is no longer a debatable point in Canada. If people really want to debate about whether or not we should roll the laws back, we could do that. But today, it's a fact. And it's a fact today that nonprofits and charities have to comply with the Human Rights Code and Human Rights Act. It's a fact that CRA will no longer allow quiet, smiling discrimination by charities against people like me. So it does do a lot more than just make me feel good, even though it really does actually make me feel good. I cannot express in enough words what it feels like to finally be treated equally, the same as everybody else. That's
well, I was going to say, it puts you on even footing finally, right? I mean, that's something.
Exactly. And it gives me that certainty that, for example, the police officer that I'm talking to has had some training and some understanding of what being in my situation means, and that they know that I'm protected.
There were a lot of sorry to cut you off. There were a lot of parents of trans kids who were involved in this. I'm sure you know, lobbying up on the Hill. I wonder what does it mean for, do you think, a kid? First of all, I mean, obviously it's something to recognize that that's where you're headed at a young age. But what do you think it means for a kid to know that you have these protections growing up?
It means that child knows that Canada has their back, and that in Canada they have a place, and that bad neighbor who tells them that they don't exist, there's no such thing as them, whether their parents are making a terrible mistake, that bad person is officially a bad person in Canada. I think that's really the key, you know, that it gives everybody a little bit of a pillar to lean against when they're being discriminated against. It's important to remember that legal protection in the Human Rights Code or the Human Rights Act only gives you the right to be discriminated against the same way as everyone else, right? There are still going to be bad people out there. Nonetheless, it gives a pillar and it gives a bit of an umbrella, and in egregious cases, it'll make a teaching moment for many people when someone misbehaves.
Okay, well, you talked about how this was sort of the last brick legislatively. What else has to be done, other than maybe education, as you point out? What is there anything else that government should be doing to support trans people or to break down some barriers?
Well, this is the law. And now government needs to implement the law and its policies and guidelines throughout its machinery.
Right.
All of the ministries are now responsible for ensuring that gender identity and gender expression is not used as a source of discrimination, and so forth. And then they need to use that to inform corporations and charities that they have to behave accordingly, that there are rules, and the rules have to be adhered. You know, the common one is if a charity wants to serve only newcomers but doesn't want to help trans people for whatever reason, that is no longer allowed. And that is explicitly not allowed, and the government will start to need to act appropriately. So now what we're looking for is teeth to the law and actual actions.
Okay, but for now you can pop some champagne or something.
Well, the government is not allowed not to act now.
Yeah.
And so if government doesn't act, then we have remedy for that.
Right. All right. Well, listen, I'm glad you feel happy about it, and I do hope you raise a glass to yourself and your friends tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Morgane.